Are you prepared or pre-qualified, as Bernie's getting her giggles out? Hey, guys, on this episode, welcome back to Thinking OTB, and I think that this is really important as far as thinking outside the box. It used to be very natural for a real estate agent to say, hey, are you pre-qualified yet? And now I think there's an added to this market that, you know, pre-qualified is great. It means that you can afford a price range, but are you mentally prepared for what you're about to embark on? So I thought we'd just kind of go through some of this craziness because it's getting wild out there right now.
But it's way more than mentally prepared.
Yeah.
I mean, it's mentally, emotionally, and physically prepared because I mean, put on your armor. I mean, prepared is so much, I mean, the pre-qual, I mean, 100% you have to have that, but.
So guys, this is twofold. Like if you're trying to enter this market to buy a house, or if you're a real estate agent representing buyers, I think that there's some great things that you need to start having conversations with your clients to see if they're really prepared to enter, you know, this market. Because, you know, we recently just had a buyer that I had to tell him, like, I don't think you're prepared to enter this shit show that's going on right now. And it's daunting. And my fear is that they're going to buy their first house and it's going to tank their experience because they're not ready for what they're about to embark on.
So when you say the preparedness, do you think of it as like them being, they don't even know that they're not prepared, and you're kind of like the coach coming in and going, hey guys, I appreciate the fact that you want to buy something and you're pre-qualified, but just everything we've gone through, you're just not ready?
It's kind of like the example of baseball, like you're not ready to give up the T-ball yet.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And it's, well,
what if you don't play baseball? I don't understand what the T-ball is. And I love baseball. I'm like, what's the T-ball?
Bernie, T-ball is where the tee holds the ball on the stand so that you can hit it. There's no pitcher.
Okay.
No.
Got it. Okay, I get it.
So let's just kind of go down the list. I mean, the natural progression is to get pre-qualified with a lender.
Right. And then you think you're ready to roll. Right.
And that used to be the deal. So, okay, we're ready to go out. But here's the mental preparedness, what comes down to it. The price range that you're looking in. If you're looking, I mean, really any price range right now, it's a fight.
100%.
Which means the mental preparedness is the list price you see right now.
It's not the sales price.
It's the starting price.
Yes.
Like mentally, you need to know that is not what I'm going to pay. So if that's the starting price and, you know, we're tracking it right now on average 5 to 7% above list.
It's crazy.
Okay. So it's 5 to 7% above the starting price in MLS or Zillow, could be more depending on the house. If that's the case, then you have to lower your expectations of the starting price by 5 to 10%. So if you're looking at a $300,000 house, you should be looking at $270,000, $280,000 houses.
Heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is that how many you know, realtors are remembering this element to be explaining it to a buyer that they need to be looking at something less expensive than what the list price is. That's heartbreaking, right? And then going in and have explained to you that okay, well, if you want this house, you need to spend $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 more than ask.
Right.
It's bananas. It
is bananas, but you have to know that going into it. And if you don't know that going into it, you're going to be severely disappointed. Yeah. And here's what happens is it's an emotional disappointment every time. So if you just go out and start writing contracts on houses without this mental preparedness, it's going to hurt and it's going to damage you emotionally. And you're going to think like, this house buying thing sucks.
Totally.
I don't want to do it. And it's not that it sucks. It's that you weren't mentally prepared to be in it. So, you know, there's also, you know, the mental preparedness of condition for price range.
Yep.
Okay. If something is renovated and it looks great, you're going to have way more fight on your hand.
Big time.
For that. So, you know, what do buyers do that, you know, the houses that they're looking at are not remodeled? You're going to have to make some concessions and know that it's okay. It's not going to be the perfect home right now. It's where I'm starting, and I'm okay with this.
Right.
You know, I'm okay.
Or, I mean, look at people who already have a house that is nice. Right? They have like their creature comforts, or it's been updated, or it's been maintained. And then they're going to look and realizing that, wow, I'm going to be moving into a house that looks less than the one I'm leaving. to still keep, maybe whether you're selling it or renting it out. But I mean, there's so much that goes into that whole, like, the visual elements of the house.
Well, I mean, so there's that piece of it. I mean, on that note, it's one of the reasons that I think, Wendy's construction side, or that part of our business, has been much busier, is that people are staying in place.
Yes.
That's one of the lack of inventories right now, is that people are realizing, like, hey, I love my house, I love my location. Even if I could sell it for top dollar right now, what am I going to buy?
Yeah.
And how hard am I going to have to fight for it? So there's a lot of people that are they're adding square footage to their homes, they're remodeling it, they're using some of the equity that they have to stay put.
Yeah.
And that's a great piece. I mean, I don't know how much money we've put into our house, but God knows I wouldn't want to be in this market right now.
Right.
So, you have to mentally be prepared for what the expectations are. So one, the list price is the starting price. You're very rarely going to find anything less than that when it comes down to negotiating on, and guess, unless you get lucky. Two, the MLS is one place. It's one thing that we provide for our clients, is that we deal in the off-market piece of real estate. So we acquire a lot of homes, people that want simple solutions, and we always give first dibs to our clients. So I'm constantly trying to connect the dots. Like, hey, I have this house, these people are moving out, this is what I can put over here. So, I would suggest, like, if your agent, ask them, do they have any access to off-market type properties?
Totally.
And then you look at just the preparedness of, are you financially ready for it? So what I mean by that is that, a year ago, you could go out and you could negotiate a full price offer, not over list, and get your closing costs contributed to.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, if you don't have your closing costs saved up, you need to wait.
Totally.
If you're trying to use down payment assistance or VA loans, those are going to be really hard, and your agent really needs to know the strategies in the contract of the things that you're giving up. Because one of the things that's really big in the contract right now is people that are offering over list price, they're also being asked to give up the appraisal contingency.
Yes.
There's ways to fight that, but it's a specific strategy that is deployed, like with our buyers, and you need to know what that situation looks like. So if you waive an appraisal, it means that you're taking the risk that if the appraisal doesn't come in at sales price, you're saying you have the money to pay the difference.
Right.
So if you offered 310 and the appraisal comes in at 300, not only do you have to put your down payment,
but
you have to pay the extra 10,000 plus your closing costs. So are you financially prepared for that? Now, the way we've been able to fight that is doing rushed appraisals, to where the appraisal is getting done inside the inspection period. So the buyer has all the pieces up front. You can still waive the appraisal, but you're going to know it up front whether or not it did appraise.
And they're taking long.
They are taking long. Actually, I talked to an appraiser the other day. He was looking at a house that we own, and I was actually shocked that he said there's only 1,200 licensed appraisers in the state of Arizona.
What?
That's what he said. I didn't verify that, but his family's been in the appraisal business a long time.
Yeah, but I remember there was a lot more at one point. I mean, and all these appraisal companies probably have, obviously they have multiple.
Right.
But that's crazy.
But yeah,
so for the size, we're the fifth largest. Maricopa County is the fifth largest county in the United States.
Right.
Like, that's a lot.
I will tell you, like, this is totally sidebar. I'll tell you why. Squirrel. So 2005, the appraisers were appraising just about anything, and you could dictate who the appraiser was.
I remember.
That's part of what caused some of the things, the unscrupulous ones.
Totally.
So then they went to the whole appraisal management, which meant that, we don't have any contact with the appraisers anymore. Mm-hmm. We can supply them information about the sale and upgrades and those types of things, but we can't pick the appraiser anymore. So it goes through a third-party management company. And what happened now is that the appraisers were charging $400-$500 for an appraisal. Well, now they have to give up a piece to the appraisal management company. And so they're making less money. Plus they had to do all kinds of licensing.
Yep.
And now they're like, well, shit, I don't want to do appraisals for that anymore.
Yeah.
And they're being worked to death right now.
And just crazy.
So
trying to save
totally different topic, appraisers. If you don't know, the appraisal is an opinion of value of the property that protects the bank. It does not protect the buyer. The appraisal is done to make sure the bank is not over leveraging on a property on your behalf. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand the difference between appraisal and inspection.
Right. The other thing too, and being prepared for, is that, a lot of people are, purchasing homes as is. Our purchase contract actually says you're purchasing the home as is. This is one thing most people don't realize. And you have to mentally prepare yourself that, hey, the repairs that come up on this, most likely the seller is not going to do. Now, here's my opinion on that. Depending on what you paid for it, I think that some sellers are reasonable as long as the buyer is reasonable. And so I try to prepare my buyers to, hey, let's not make a list that's 95 pages long of nitpicky stuff. Right. Let's stick to 2 or 3 things that are reasonable, really that either we can get a credit for or we can get repaired.
Well, and hopefully too, on the sell side, an agent has advised a seller that there's some things here that you probably need to be aware of, that as opposed to being coaching them, letting them know, oh, you can get whatever you want. You don't have to pay for anything. Right. But that is happening a lot. You can get whatever you want. You don't have to pay for anything.
Right. And I just, I would encourage the sellers out there, hey, you know what? You're getting top dollar for your house. Don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, let's be reasonable. That somebody's willing to pay 5 or 10% over list, and they ask you for a couple of grand worth of repairs. Yeah, you probably don't have to, and you can give them the big middle finger if that's where you want to stand. But I think it's really important that, the fairness comes in. Like, hey,
be reasonable.
These are just be civil, be a person. There's people on the other end. It's really the way, we handle, our flips and the things that we do. Is Erica knows, like, let's be reasonable about it. These are things we're going to have to fix, or is it warranty work? Like, let's try to go through that. I can't say that everybody's going to be that way, and it really depends on the agent that's coaching the seller on the other side, as well. But I think on the inspection stuff, I think that it's really important to know that, hey, are you willing to take this house in as-is condition after your inspection and know that you're going to, have to repair those items?
Mm-hmm. It's resale.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not buying a brand new house.
Right. So, the way we try to explain it to our clients is like, hey, we're taking the used car to the mechanic to have checked out to make sure that what we're buying, we know what's wrong with it, and we're okay paying this price in its condition. And we know we're going to have to put some tires on, or we're going to have to change the belts, change the fluids, those types of things. If the motor is near dead, the foundation's cracked, those types of things, yeah, you probably don't want to move forward with that. But they're also in that do or die scenario of, well, we finally got a house and we don't want to give it up.
Right.
So I really think that you've got to be prepared to take that on, knowing that you're going to have to put a little money into it. And, it's so different from what we were used to. And now people are like, what? I can't.
I know.
It won't. They won't. It won't.
I know.
And that's why I try to take as much time as I can with the buyers to really walk them through what they're prepared for. And I think as agents, we need to do a better job of telling buyers what to expect, so that they still have a good experience because they know what to expect. Because there's nothing worse than going out and showing a house and going, okay, price is $300. Do you want to offer $320, $325, $330? And they're like, huh?
Yeah.
Wait, what just happened? Oh, you don't have closing costs? Oh, that's going to be a problem. Oh, you're using down payment assistance? Like, that's going to be a problem. Like, those are things that people really need to be told up front.
For sure. And I wonder too how many people are in situations where they have to buy as opposed to they want to buy. And some people want to buy because they think they have part of the equation covered, but they really don't until they sit down and talk to somebody and realize, okay, wait, there's this box that you need to check off.
And I think the other piece to this
Do you think it's better just to wait?
I think some people should wait.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying to wait because the market's going to go down. I think some people should wait because
they're time to prepare.
Right. And they're not quite ready to enter the fight. I kind of equate it to boxing. all my sports analogies today. I don't even like sports. but you think about boxing, because one of my favorite movies is Southpaw.
Okay.
And you have to train before you're ready to get in the ring with somebody.
Right.
And I think that the mental preparedness, boxing is way more mental than it is physical. I mean, obviously you have to be in incredible physical shape, but it's a lot of mental preparedness. And right now we're in a market where the mental preparedness of, okay, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready for the disappointment. I'm ready for the stress, because a house hits the market, and right now, I mean,
Within hours,
you're like, you're calling your agent. You're like, okay, I got to see this house. Okay, are you ready to write an offer on it? Yes. So you're kind of looking at that house going, I'm willing to pay. So that's a preparedness. So how do I prepare my clients for the offering stage, like price?
right?
Too many people, Kyle and Eden just had their first listing, and it was interesting to look at the 12, 13 offers that we had. But what was more interesting was the people that were not ready to put their best foot forward, and they're playing this freaking game with an escalation clause. Kyle, you guys looked through those offers, and every one of those offers, because it was around 300,000. It was South Phoenix baseline and like 15th Avenue. What was your opinion? Like, if you were to give somebody advice after seeing those offers, what truly won at the end of the day?
The best offer and why it won wasn't the highest price. It was the offer that offered something in case it didn't appraise. So they're willing to go the extra mile and show that they're willing to go that extra mile. Everyone else was just throwing a high number out and not willing to do anything if it didn't appraise.
Right. So they're throwing shit against the wall and hoping something sticks, but then they're not prepared to do anything. So the buyer that won that, we had offers from 300 to 325. And I remember one offer that stood out, which I'm totally doing a video on that. Remind me later. I will not name the agent, but it was awesome. So here's what it looks like. They offer the list price, 300 grand, and then they offer $1,000 over the highest net offer up to 325. So they weren't willing to pay 325 for it unless somebody beat them out. And my advice always to the buyer is mental note, tell me the price you're willing to pay for this house based on these terms. Do not mess with the escalation clause. You're playing with fire. Because you're like, oh, you know how many buyers I've heard, like, I can't believe we lost that over $5,000. I would have paid that. So I tell my buyers, I don't want to ever hear you regret I would have paid more, or have the saying, I would have paid more for that house. You need to pay what you're willing to pay for it now. Put your best foot forward with these terms and move on. If you don't get it, you have no regrets.
Right. In this environment, like, best foot forward 1,000,000%. You have to. Right. You can't kind of play that game. You can't. If you really want the house.
You can't. I think the other thing, too, that I am seeing in this market, I think the agents need to be aware of, because you're playing with emotions. I saw it written the other day, and I told Eric, I'm like, hey, I want to adjust to this. Agents are saying, putting a house on the market on Friday, we'll review offers on Monday. Seller gets bombarded on Saturday and gets 20 offers, and they're like, okay, no more showings. Let's just take an offer and get done with this. So people that waited till Sunday night to put their offer in lose their chance. I think that if you're going to make an offer, make it. People are trying to hedge. Well, I don't want them using my offer to get a better offer. Just put it in, because here's your risk. There's nothing in MLS that says they have to wait until Monday. And some agents are not, so you're missing your opportunity. If you have the opportunity to make the offer, make the offer and call it a day. A new phrase that we're going to start using is, yes, we'll review offers on Monday, but the seller has the right to accept an offer prior to presentation.
Yeah, that's super smart, right? Because I agree with you. I think that at the end of the day, like, make your offer. If you're on the buy side in this market, you have to be on point, upfront. This is not a game you'll win with a whole bunch of, like, oh, I wonder what, like, the shell game of sorts. You're not going to win that way at all.
So my last thing, which I think is the most important, I've heard so many buyers not take responsibility for the choices they make in somebody representing them. And what I mean by that is a buyer will complain about, well, this person, blah, blah, blah. And then you look back, you're like, did you know that person has never sold a house before? And you're pissed off. Like, did you do that research? This is not a market. I don't think any market is where you're like, oh yeah, my friend who's a hairdresser, she does real estate part-time and she's going to sell me a house. No offense, part-time agents, honestly, but you are playing with somebody's future. You're playing with their family. You're playing with their finances.
Totally.
And you guys, if you're going to enter this market, I highly suggest that, you interview a couple of agents. I think referrals are great. I think that's an awesome, we get referred to a lot of people, but I think you need to do your due diligence and
certain.
Find out, hey, what do you know about multiple offers?
Yep.
What do you think about this? Where should I be starting on my price? They're looking to you for advice.
Or ask them, how should I prepare?
Yeah.
If that agent can't explain to you how you should prepare as a buyer right now, that would be a red flag.
Yeah, so I just think it's really important as a buyer in this market that you do your due diligence and you find somebody that you're comfortable with and the guidance that they're going to have and that they're not rushing you through things. Although I can tell you that's back to the preparedness. I'm not rushing you through anything, but you better be ready to pull the trigger. We talked about that in one of our previous episodes. This is not what we used to do 2 years ago where we could go and look at 20 houses. This is like, if you're going to look at a house, are you ready to make an offer on it?
Right.
It's kind of like that bullshit thing the freaking car dealers do. If I can get these numbers to work, will you sign this contract that you're going to buy and drive today?
Yeah.
If you're not aware of what part of the value you want, what kind of house you want, you need to do that due diligence. Because once you get the agent to go show you a house, that house is not going to be there when you're ready. So go to some open houses, go check things out, check out the different parts of the valley. And I know I said that was the last thing, but here's the last thing.
Okay.
I
still have a question too.
Oh, what do you have?
No, I'll wait till you're done.
I think buyers need to be prepared to concede on what they really want. And what I mean by that is that, hey, the Phoenix I-17 corridor, if you want $300,000, you're probably getting a house that needs repairs, that's not super updated. But that same $300,000, as much as you want to be close to work, will buy you a newer home out in Surprise. So you're going to have to concede on your drive time if you want that type of home, or you're going out to Buckeye, or you're going out to Queen Creek, depending on where your search is. So I do think you need to be able to, or ready to concede. Either I'm going to settle for this because it makes it better, or I'm willing to go here.
Well, and I think a good practitioner can show the data that supports that, right? So when you're talking to a buyer and they have those expectations, to be able to show the data that says, look, what you want to spend and what's available are two different things, right? So that's good advice on the conceding. So in that whole preparedness thing, like in terms of a buyer, when you talk to them about, things are going for what percentage over ask?
5 to 7%.
5 to 7% over ask. So there's, cash register, and then closing costs, cash register.
Yep.
And then thirdly, repairs, concessions, things like that. That's another cash register item. So, I mean, I think, to articulate for a buyer, these are things to really be prepared for from a money standpoint too. Because the emotional and the mental is going to be anguish no matter what.
Right.
But like from a financial standpoint, like those are really important elements, I think.
Well, and I don't want to see a young couple start off house poor. You'd be better off staying in your rental for a little longer and taking time to save up money, until you're truly ready to enter that space. And it's okay. I think some people are doing some of the things that happened years ago where fear of missing out. They're like, oh God, if I don't do this, it's going to be so much more expensive. And right now, why that may be the case, don't get into that hustle and bustle. If it's right timing for you, then jump in. If it's not, you're not going to miss out. There's always going to be something there.
For sure.
Same thing I tell my investors, like, hey, the only thing you're missing out right now if you don't buy is that rates might increase a little bit, which is going to cause your cash flow to have a little bit of difference. Same thing with the buyers. If the prices go up and the interest rates go up, you're going to have to buy less house. It doesn't mean you can't buy a house. You're just going to have to concede that it's going to be a little bit less.
Yep. It's true. I agree. Good job.
So guys, don't just look at being pre-qualified. Make sure that you're taking time to be prepared to buy in this market. And hey, agents, you guys need to do your best to help people before they start looking to be prepared for this market, so that one, we're setting standards and we're truly helping the families out there. And it's okay to tell people you might not be ready.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to tell somebody.
Well, and also to really ask the hard questions. Like, I think if I'm an realtor, I want to really understand the financial situation of the buyer, because that feeds into the anguish, that feeds into the mental and the emotional distress, right? If you don't have that like Q&A with them, it'll be harder on them.
Absolutely.
Even though it feels probably uncomfortable to talk to people about stuff like that, we have to be able to. I've had too much coffee today.
So, at the end of the day, get prepared to buy a house. Talk to some people about it. Be careful of what you hear from your colleagues or your friends or your family, because remember, they bought one house and God knows when they did it, and the market's constantly changing. So, and everybody has different variables. So don't just take somebody's word for what happened. Yeah. There's a lot of different things that are happening, and truly be financially and mentally prepared to enter into this buyer's market.